Well, if you've been watching the past few videos, you know that I have been making my way through South Dakota. And I'm in the western part of the state now, kind of in the Black Hills region. And there's no way that I could come all the way out to western South Dakota and, as a fan of the history of the Old West, not visit the historic city of Deadwood. So if you don't know, Deadwood, South Dakota was really put on the map and made famous by the man Wild Bill Hickok. Now this isn't going to be a full-blown documentary on Hickok, but just suffice it to say that he's a legend of the Old West, was a scout, was a lawman in Hays, Kansas, and in Abilene, and gambler, and made his way all the way up here to Deadwood, South Dakota. All right, so we're going to look at some things related to Wild Bill Hickok today. All right, well, here's going to be our first stop in Deadwood. We are going to the Adams Museum, which I'm told has some pretty cool historic artifacts that directly tie to Wild Bill Hickok. So we're going to go in and see what we got. All right, so we're getting here into the museum, and I don't have just a ton of time, so I can't show everything, but there are a few key items that I do want to show, one of which is this thing right here. Now, Deadwood got its name and was put on the map because of the presence of gold in this community. Well, this is an 8-ounce hunk of gold that was discovered by a local legend named Potato Creek Johnny. Pretty cool. And you may ask, how do I know that that's the real thing and not a replica? Well, because they told me so. Now, there are a lot of items here at this museum, and I'm not going to be able to hit them all. You just need to come here for yourself. But one that jumped out at me is this horseshoe. This is a horseshoe that was found at the Little Bighorn battle site. So that's kind of cool. They also have a taxidermy mount here of a calf. Oh wait. Not just any calf. Now, this has nothing to do with Wild Bill Hickok, but I thought that the story was kind of interesting. This meat cleaver here was used by a man named Charles Brown. He threw it at his landlady's dog, missed the dog, and hit her. This was in 1897. Was found guilty of murder, and this is the noose that was used to hang him. Charles Brown. I'll refrain from making any Charlie Brown jokes. Now, of course, Deadwood was a big gambling town, so they have a few gambling items here from the late 1800s, along with a few poker chips. Yeah. Now, here in the Adams Museum, they have several pictures of Wild Bill Hickok at different points, but this right here is too cool. This is Wild Bill Hickok's 1860 Army Colt revolver, along with some cartridges, cartridge belt, and this Union military buckle, all attributed to Wild Bill. That is cool. They have a few other really cool items here. This is just a pencil portrait of Wild Bill, and then they have a few other pictures and whatnot. This right here is a letter that Wild Bill wrote to his wife. Her name was Agnes. I guess this was right after they got married, so that's pretty cool. But even cooler than that, look at this. Now that firearm is a revolver that belonged to his friend Charlie Utter. But what's especially cool about this is those cards are from the same playing deck that Wild Bill was using whenever he got shot. They also have his razor, and then this thing right here, this rock, is a good luck stone that was found in his boot. But didn't exactly give him good luck on the day that he was in the number 10 saloon. Here's another character that is tied in with the history of Deadwood, and that is Calamity Jane, another famous figure of the Old West. Now, I would love to be able to show the place where Wild Bill Hickok was killed, but unfortunately, the city of Deadwood was pretty much wiped out, or at least the commercial district, by a fire in 1879. But we're going to go to the place where the number 10 saloon once stood.
I met a man who was out on his own. He chose to wander this world all alone. He said, heaven can't help me, I'm so far away from where they found me on that day.
Well, I'm walking down the historic main street of Deadwood right now, and after Hickok's time in Abilene as a lawman, he made his way up here to Deadwood, South Dakota, and spent a lot of time mainly just making money as a gambler. Well, he got into a game with a guy named Jack McCall here, and ended up cleaning him out. Was a nice guy about it. Offered to, buy him breakfast, the next day, so that he'd have something to eat. McCall was offended by it. Came back the next day to this location at Saloon number 10, slipped in, got behind Hickok, and shot him in the back of the head. Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, there was a big fire here in Deadwood that pretty much wiped out the commercial district. So this isn't the actual building that Hickok was shot in, but it is the exact site that they now have kind of a bar here. Okay, so we weren't allowed to film inside of the building, which is fine because it's not technically the actual building that Wild Bill Hickok was killed in. It's just the geographic location. But right now, we're gonna hop back in the van and see if we can go and find the final resting place of Wild Bill Hickok. We made it to Mountmora Cemetery, which is the final resting place of Wild Bill Hickok. And I wish I would have filmed the drive up here because dadgum, this place is on one heck of a steep hill. But we're gonna walk around here and kind of see what we can find before we start looking for Hickok's grave.
On and on I go into the night, singing, waging war with demons in my mind, but I go on.
Now, this grave right here is far separated from the rest of the graves in Mountmora, and my gosh, words can't describe what it took to get up here to get to the grave of Seth Bullock. You can look up Seth Bullock for yourself. In short, he was another well-known lawman of the West, operated a hotel here in Deadwood, and was a really good friend of Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt and Taft both had appointed him as marshal, and yeah, they were really good friends all the way up until Teddy Roosevelt's death. But anyway, he's all the way up here on top of this dadgum mountain here at Mountmora. We have had to do a little bit of walking, but I see a statue, so I think that we may have found our guy. Right here at Mountmora Cemetery, we have the final resting place of legendary lawman Wild Bill Hickok. Well, like I said, right here is the final resting place of the legend of the West, Wild Bill Hickok. It says there on his monument, died August 2nd, 1876 by pistol shot, aged 39 years. Custer was lonely without him. Huh. And by the way, right next to him at her request is Calamity Jane. So you have two legends of the West right here next to each other. All right, so that was the city of Deadwood, South Dakota, and Mountmora Cemetery. Again, this wasn't meant to be just like an all-encompassing biography of Wild Bill Hickok, just want to show you a little bit of what's here if you ever happen to be passing through South Dakota. But it is definitely worth the stop. As for now, I'm wore out. We're going into Wyoming tonight, and we'll be off to another location tomorrow. Apparently the penalty is severe here in Deadwood if you don't pay for your spot.